Who is really in charge of DOGE?
Just like everyone else, I don't actually know.
So is DOGE an agency?
DOGE seems to be more of an idea than a belief system than an agency itself.
So throughout your time there, what was the overall mission of DOGE, and how involved was Elon Musk or not in the day-to-day operation?
Day-to-day, Elon was not super involved, at least from my perspective.
Elon Musk repeatedly said that DOGE was trying to seek out fraud, get rid of fraud, and that in order to do that, DOGE needed access to sensitive government databases that has information on millions of Americans or government workers. At Veterans Affairs, did you find any examples of fraud?
In terms of fraud, generally we didn't find any examples of fraud. Fraud meaning, someone who broke the law, who was getting money they shouldn't have been getting.
All right, we got a big court win today, you guys, and this one really matters. Here's the headline. Federal court just blocked Elon Musk's DOGE from unlawfully accessing Americans' personal records. And the judge ordered that DOGE delete and disgorge every bit of data that it has illegally seized. Like, give it back right now. The ruling refers to what the DOGE boys have been doing in Social Security as an unlawful data grab. And guess what? Cybersecurity experts have been warning of that for weeks. The decision requires DOGE to return or destroy all private Social Security data it accessed, recognizing that stopping their future access to the data isn't enough to protect Americans. And DOGE's intrusion has already put millions at risk for identity theft, financial fraud, and doxing.
You hear that? A federal court had to step in because Musk's DOGE was illegally accessing Americans' personal Social Security data. This isn't just about efficiency. It's about a clear, documented attempt to unlawfully seize sensitive information. Cybersecurity experts warned us, and now we see the consequences.
The court emphasized that the continued possession of unlawfully obtained data creates an ongoing threat that cannot be overlooked. The court then goes on to observe it's pretty ironic that the DOGE people who are being called out in this lawsuit don't want their identities revealed because they don't want to be harassed or have their privacy invaded, and yet look what they were just doing to every American citizen. These Elon Musk acolytes, they have had full access to all of our personal data, and they have been able to do whatever they wanted with it. We have no idea what they did with it. It is shameful that we are even in this situation. The fact that this was allowed to happen at all is an absolute disgrace and an indication of how little Elon Musk and Donald Trump care about the American people at all. But thank God for the courts, and thank God for Democracy Forward, the organization that brought this lawsuit. For a minute at least, we are safe. Let's take the win. And then let's keep fighting to get the frat boys out of our data and our government for good.
The hypocrisy is just astounding. They want their privacy protected, yet they're raiding our personal data. It truly shows the arrogance and disregard for American citizens from Musk and Trump's crew. They had full access, and we have no idea what they did with it. Disgraceful.
Okay, the Alt National Park Service is literally pleading for help on Facebook right now because of Elon Musk. Let me explain. I'm going to read what they posted 6 hours ago and then just an hour ago. And we need to repost, comment, share this post as much as possible. Musk staffers have been caught plugging external hard drives into federal agency systems and reportedly locking others out of private rooms to perform who knows what actions. This behavior violates key cybersecurity laws under FISMA and NIST guidelines, which are designed to protect sensitive federal information. Here is why this is a serious problem.
Who knows what actions? That's the chilling part. This isn't just incompetence, it's a deliberate undermining of cybersecurity, potentially exposing critical federal information. They're literally bypassing laws designed to protect us. And for what? Their own opaque agenda.
Now they go on to say that federal systems are strictly regulated, allowing only approved devices to connect. Unauthorized external drives can introduce viruses, ransomware, or other harmful software that may compromise the entire network and disrupt essential operations. This puts system stability and continuity of services at risk, endangering critical infrastructure. Now here's where it gets even more crazy. These devices could also be used to steal or damage critical information, including personal data for millions of Americans, such as Social Security recipients and taxpayers. Unauthorized access creates significant vulnerabilities, exposing sensitive data to the risk of cyber attacks. Such attacks could cripple vital services and compromise the privacy and safety of millions of people. Additionally, federal agencies have strict access controls to prevent unauthorized data manipulation or theft.
This is terrifying. They're not just looking for efficiency, they're creating massive security holes. The idea that sensitive data for millions of Americans, including Social Security and taxpayer info, could be stolen or damaged by these rogue operatives is absolutely insane.
When unauthorized devices are connected, these protections are bypassed, allowing unauthorized users to potentially alter or extract sensitive data. This undermines system integrity and opens the door to both internal and external threats. Now, they also say external drives also often lack essential security features such as encryption and antivirus scanning, making them vulnerable to cybercriminal exploitation. These security gaps further increase the risk of data breaches and system compromise, which can have far-reaching consequences. That was a post they made 6 hours ago. This is the post they made 1 hour ago. It's official. Elon Musk's staffers have now illegally obtained classified information from the USAID office. Here is a recap of what's happening. Elon Musk staffers entered USAID offices and accessed classified materials without the proper clearance. 2 senior security officials who tried to stop them were placed on leave.
It's official. They illegally obtained classified information from USAID, and when security officials tried to stop them, they were placed on leave. This isn't efficiency. It's a hostile takeover designed to dismantle and control, not to improve.
DOGE staffers have since obtained the classified information and carried materials out of the building. USAID, founded in 1961 as the primary U.S. foreign aid agency, is now under threat of being dismantled by President Trump. Signs outside the USAID building have been removed. The agency's website went offline and its X account has disappeared. Hundreds of USAID employees have been fired or furloughed, and foreign aid operations were suspended after Trump issued a freeze on aid. The agency's public affairs team has also been placed on leave and locked out of their systems. Now, that was 1 hour ago. This was 35 minutes ago. We have been and will continue releasing the names of Musk's staffers. Remember, if you break the law, it's not just your boss who will face charges. You will too. I know that was a lot, but they're posting this on Facebook, you guys. They want full transparency to the American public about what is happening because they feel that it is not in our best interest to allow this to happen right now. It's February 2025. Here we are.
They carried classified materials out of the building, USAID's website offline, X account gone, employees fired. This isn't dismantling, it's an attempted coup on a vital government agency. The people working there are now taking names, and they should.
I don't think there should be. There should have been a phone call yesterday. If you have a disagreement with one of the president's policy priorities, you call him on the phone and you make the best argument. You don't resort to baseless personal attacks. And so I thank Elon for being a part of this movement, but I gotta tell you the truth. President Trump won 80 million votes, the popular vote, the electoral vote, all 7 swing states because of himself and his leadership and his policy priorities. Border crossings are down 99%, not because of Elon Musk, because of President Trump. We created 140,000 jobs last month, all of which were in the private sector, not because of Elon Musk, but because of President Trump. And President Trump is delivering, as we saw yesterday with this conversation with Xi Jinping, a breakthrough trade deal between the U.S. and China. I'm a big fan of Elon. I'm grateful for his support to the country, but we voted for President Trump, and that's where we should be focused now.
So an alleged former DOGE advisor is pushing back against Musk's baseless personal attacks on Trump, while simultaneously spewing baseless election claims and attributing all success to Trump, not Musk. It's a battle of egos, clearly, with zero basis in reality.
Who is really in charge of DOGE?
Just like everyone else, I don't actually know.
So is DOGE an agency?
There seems to be more of an idea and a belief system than an agency itself.
Maurice Vinton was an employee with the U.S. Digital Service. This is the office that would eventually go on to become DOGE when President Trump took office. Now, she recently departed, but she was technically a part of DOGE, an employee of DOGE for the last 2 months, and she says she observed a highly secretive operation.
We very much felt just like a convenient container for DOGE. They could have access to the White House through our office space. You could have access to email accounts, things like admin and the ability to hire people.
You had a few months on the inside, so to speak. What do you want Americans to know?
I want Americans to try to understand that it is a wrecking ball and that it's not a scalpel. And it is going to dramatically decrease government's capacity to deliver services and benefits in the next few years.
More of an idea than an agency itself. This confirms our suspicions. DOGE isn't about efficiency. It's a secretive operation, a convenient container to gain access to the White House, emails, and hiring power. A wrecking ball, not a scalpel, sounds about right.
Billionaire Elon Musk has returned to his business ventures full-time after leaving the White House and his role with the so-called Department of Government Efficiency at the end of last week. Musk has continued to break with his former boss over the budget bill being debated in Congress right now, writing on his social media platform today, quote, "This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination." The White House and Republican leadership on Capitol Hill rejected Musk's concerns. During Musk's tenure in the Trump administration, DOGE was tasked with gutting the federal workforce and publicizing its cost-cutting efforts. Our White House correspondent, Laura Barone-Lopez, has more from a former DOGE staffer who is now speaking out about his short-lived experience.
So, Musk's gone, but his influence lingers. The fact that DOGE's main task was gutting the federal workforce says it all. This isn't about streamlining, it's about systematically weakening government functions dressed up as cost-cutting.
Since then, Sahil published a diary of his time working in the department, chronicling what he did and didn't accomplish. Sahil joins me now. Sahil, thank you so much for being here. You joined DOGE in mid-March as a volunteer employee. Can you start by telling us what you were brought in to do?
Honestly, at the time, I didn't know exactly what I was brought in to do. I learned on day one what really I was going to do, which was to help cut contracts, to help build org charts to visualize the organization, and hopefully to spend a lot of my time shipping code as well. And as a software engineer, I was hoping that I could come in and effectively build software in-house, and also ideally hire some more software engineers in-house, make the federal government more competent technically. While we were making progress, VA was kind of surprisingly efficient in a way. It was not as easy of a battle as we were expecting. Software engineers tend to have this saying, we don't do things because they're easy, we do things because we thought they were going to be easy. That's kind of what happened at VA.
He went in hoping to build, to make things better, but immediately learned the real goal was to cut contracts and reduce the workforce. It's classic bait and switch. They lure in talent with promises of innovation, then use them for destruction.
So throughout your time there, what was the overall mission of DOGE, and how involved was Elon Musk or not in the day-to-day operations?
There's sort of three legs of this stool. The first one being cutting contracts with federal government contractors. Generally tend to have like pretty expensive contracts for relatively like mediocre software. Then, helping reduce the workforce by the sort of 15%, though I learned later that DOGE doesn't really have any authority to do that. And then the last one, the one that I was most excited about, was to actually ship software, to actually like write new code, build new software that would allow us to save the government money, find waste, fraud, and abuse, these sorts of things. Day-to-day, Elon was not super involved, at least from my perspective at the VA.
You've said that you were disappointed because at the Veterans Affairs Department specifically, you were unable to speed up veterans' disability claims or make it an overall better experience for them. Was that due to staff cuts? What exactly made that so difficult?
So Sahil confirms the mission: cut contracts, reduce workforce, even though they apparently had no authority to do so, and maybe ship software. And Elon wasn't even involved day to day. This whole operation seems like an empty shell, a distraction, unable to deliver on even basic promises.
Elon Musk repeatedly said that DOGE was trying to seek out fraud, get rid of fraud, and that in order to do that, DOGE needed access to sensitive government databases that has information on millions of Americans or government workers. At Veterans Affairs, did you find any examples of fraud? Were you given access to sensitive government databases?
I mean, I think it depends on what you consider sensitive. As part of, my role at VA was senior advisor to the chief of staff. So I did have access to, for example, like the HR data, but I didn't have access to a lot of other information. In terms of fraud, generally we didn't find any examples of fraud. Fraud meaning, someone who broke the law, who was getting money they shouldn't have been getting. We did have one case where we were asked to look into something. We were asked to look into someone who I think some other agency or something found out was 137 years old. But we looked into it, and in our systems, the health records showed that they were 75. So in our case, specifically at VA, we did not find actually any. We were given one potential that turned out to be a 0. We didn't find any examples of fraud.
No fraud found, despite the big claims, and the sensitive data access was mainly HR data. It seems the narrative of fighting fraud was a smokescreen for something else entirely. The only fraud they found was a 137-year-old person who was actually 75. What a joke.
Elon Musk and President Trump say that DOGE's work is going to continue even though Elon Musk is leaving as a special government employee. What do you think the future of DOGE will be, and who is exactly in charge?
I have no idea. To be honest, even when I was there, it was unclear who was in charge. At the end of the day, I guess Trump is in charge. But you know, I think DOGE will sort of continue to do what it was doing, which frankly to me wasn't that exciting. We were sitting in on a lot of meetings around contract review, making sure that we weren't overspending on these big, federal IT contracts. I think that should continue and will continue. I guess there's this reduction in force that's taking place over the federal government that the VA has said that they're going to participate in. It was moving incredibly slow. I think at VA specifically, more people were hired than fired during my tenure. I hope DOGE ships a lot of software. Unfortunately, I think the admin appetite for shipping software instead of just cutting things is relatively low. Maybe that's partly why Elon and co sort of parted ways in the last week or so. So I assume that won't really happen, but I would be very, very gracious as an American if paying taxes became easier. If the sort of broad experience of dealing with Social Security improved, etc. So I wish them the best of luck, but they just don't have a lot of resources to do what they set out to do in the beginning.
Even Sahil on the inside admits no one knew who was in charge and that the work was not that exciting. It seems the core mission of actually building software was sidelined by endless meetings and a slow-moving, ineffective reduction in force. A total failure.
What's your name?
Sabrina Valenti.
And which agency were you illegally fired from?
I worked at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
And what kind of work will no longer be done now?
Well, I was a budget analyst for a coastal wetland restoration program. So in my absence, these massive grant actions that help the state of Louisiana pay to build back up their coastline, they're just not going to happen.
Can you say more about what Louisiana needs and what's not going to happen?
Yeah, so anytime a hurricane or a major storm hits Louisiana, all of that land that stands in between you and the storm is actually what keeps you safe. So by building up more land, we're protecting more coastal Louisianans from flooding, from severe winds, from all these impacts that could danger their home and their livelihood and their own personal safety. Without all of that land being there and without the money from my program paying to build up that land, those people are going to be in danger. They might lose their jobs, they might lose their homes, or worse.
Thank you so much.
This is the real human cost of DOGE's efficiency. People like Sabrina doing vital work protecting vulnerable communities are being illegally fired. This isn't about saving money. It's about dismantling essential public services, putting lives and livelihoods at risk.
So the administration decided to put us on administrative leave, and then they just started another round of firing. But since I got fired once already, I was not able to get back into my laptop, so I don't know if I have a letter or not.
So you got fired, and then they essentially sent you a text that said, "You up?" And you responded, "Yes," and then they ghosted you?
Yep.
So are you saying that this government is being run by boys?
Essentially.
Do you believe that the intention behind DOGE is to actually cut unnecessary spending?
If you wanted to take over all of your competitors' business, one way you could do that is you could go to every financial regulator, every government agency that has sensitive data from the private sector. You could suck that data into some sort of AI, large language model, and then you could use it to undercut all of American industry.
Run by F***K boys. That's a perfect summary of what we're seeing. And the theory about sucking up private sector data to undercut American industry, that's not just a conspiracy theory anymore. It aligns disturbingly with the illegal data grabs we've already witnessed.
Do you think there's any chance that Elon is doing something good with all of our data? Like maybe with having access to all that data, he'll finally understand the mysteries of the human heart, you know?
Well, they've removed the watchdogs, and the danger of that is that Congress doesn't have a transparent way of knowing what is happening within these agencies and departments.
It's almost like they've set out on this journey to find fraud, waste, and abuse, when really the fraud, waste, and abuse was inside them the whole time.
Remove the watchdogs. That's the key. No transparency, no oversight. It was never about finding fraud outside. It was about creating chaos and undermining the very system from within. This is government by disruption, for profit and power.
Today we're going to be speaking to Maurice Vinton, a former U.S. Digital Service employee and DOGE staffer. Maurice, so great to have you on. Just to start somewhere and give the audience a little context, pre-DOGE, when you worked at the U.S. Digital Service Department, what sort of work were you doing there, and what sort of efficiencies were kind of within your purview to try to find?
The U.S. Digital Service was founded after the healthcare.gov collapse, and it's effectively what they wanted to do was to bring all of this great technical talent into government to help build more efficient and more effective services. The projects ranged on a whole spectrum of things. Some of the earliest projects were making it easier for veterans to get their services. That's actually something that the U.S. Digital Service team was still working on when I left, to doing a lot of support.
This clip really highlights the stark contrast. The U.S. Digital Service was created to build and improve services like healthcare.gov and veterans support. DOGE, however, dismantled that, shifting focus to cuts and chaos. It's a tragedy of potential.
Folks, this news is just coming in right now. A DOGE staffer, that's Elon Musk's pseudo-governmental agency. This guy's name was Marco Ilez. He just resigned from DOGE after a Wall Street Journal reporter linked him to a deleted account on Twitter, or X, that advocated for repealing the Civil Rights Act, backing a eugenic immigration policy, and he also wrote the following quote, "You could not pay me to marry outside my ethnicity." Marco Ilez was a 25-year-old employee over at DOGE. He was one of Elon's people who was going through all these agencies, and he resigned right after the Wall Street Journal asked the White House about his connection to the now deleted account. This was a guy plucked right from Elon's world. He worked for Elon Musk at SpaceX, Starlink, and at X, where he focused on artificial intelligence, says the Wall Street Journal reporting. I gotta say, incredible reporting here by the Wall Street Journal of finding these posts and asking the White House about it, leading to this guy's resignation. I mean, he said even more stuff like that. He attacked Indians in the United States on H-1B visas. He said the following quote, "Just for the record, I was racist before it was cool." He said, quote, "I would not mind at all if Gaza and Israel were both..."
I was racist before it was cool. That tells you everything you need to know about the kind of people Elon Musk is handpicking for his efficiency team, advocating to repeal the Civil Rights Act, promoting eugenics, openly racist comments. This isn't just a bad hire. It's a window into the ideology festering within DOGE. This is who they are. All right, deep breath, everyone. We've just seen an astonishing collection of confessions and reports from individuals who were either inside the Department of Government Efficiency or directly impacted by its actions. The picture that emerges is far from the narrative of streamlined government and fiscal responsibility that Trump and Musk tried to sell us. Instead, we see a dangerous, opaque, and potentially illegal operation that actively works to undermine the very fabric of public service and citizen privacy. The foundational principle of DOGE, as presented by Musk and Trump, was to cut waste and improve efficiency. Yet, what we've heard suggests this was a facade. Former U.S. Digital Service employee Marichi Vinton candidly describes DOGE as a wrecking ball, not a scalpel, designed to dramatically decrease government's capacity to deliver services and benefits. This isn't efficiency, it's deconstruction. The goal wasn't to make government work better for people, but to make it smaller, weaker, and less accountable. The most alarming revelations center on data access and security. Federal courts had to intervene to block DOGE from unlawfully accessing Americans' personal records from social security systems. The order to delete and disgorge illegally seized data is unprecedented and a stark warning. Cybersecurity experts repeatedly raised alarms about DOGE's unlawful data grab. The reports of Musk staffers plugging external hard drives into federal agency systems and locking out legitimate personnel at USAID are not merely breaches of protocol. They are violations of fundamental cybersecurity laws and national security. The disappearance of USAID's website, X account, and the firing of hundreds of employees indicate a systematic dismantling, not a reform. This isn't about saving money, it's about a hostile takeover, potentially to access sensitive data for private gain or simply to sow chaos. The idea, floated in one clip, that this data could be used to undercut all of American industry isn't so far-fetched when you consider the kind of power Elon Musk wields and the data he could aggregate. Furthermore, the personnel brought into DOGE raised serious questions. Sahil Lavingia, a former staffer at the Department of Veterans Affairs, joined with noble intentions of building software and improving services. His experience, however, exposed the true mission: to cut contracts and reduce the workforce, not to innovate. He found no evidence of widespread fraud despite Musk's claims, which suggests the seeking out fraud narrative was a cover for other objectives. Crucially, he noted that Elon was not super involved and that it was unclear who was in charge. This speaks to an organizational vacuum where critical operations were being executed without clear leadership or accountability. The story of Marco Elise, a DOGE staffer with a history of openly racist and xenophobic views, further tarnishes the image of this efficiency department. Advocating for repealing the Civil Rights Act, promoting eugenics, and making vile comments about immigrants and global conflicts, this is not just one bad apple. It's a symptom of who is being elevated within this pseudo-governmental agency. The fact that someone with such views was plucked right from Elon's world and given access to government agencies is deeply troubling and reflects on the judgment of those at the top. Even the core promise of reducing the deficit, a central tenet of the MAGA math we saw, proved to be utterly false. DOGE promised to cut $2 trillion from the budget, but missed that goal by $1.9 trillion. This staggering failure, combined with Trump's policies increasing the deficit by an additional $2.4 trillion, results in a $4.3 trillion deficit increase. This is not fiscal responsibility, it's catastrophic mismanagement. The voices of the DOGE employees like Sabrina Valenti, illegally fired from her vital role in coastal wetland restoration, highlight the real-world impact. These are not abstract numbers, these are critical services that protect communities, livelihoods, and lives. Removing watchdogs, as a Daily Show guest pointed out, creates an environment where Congress loses transparency and accountability. The fraud, waste, and abuse was indeed inside them the whole time, masquerading as reform. In conclusion, the testimonies from former DOGE employees and those impacted by its actions paint a damning picture. This was not a sincere effort to improve government efficiency, but a thinly veiled attempt to dismantle agencies, seize sensitive data, and install loyalists, sometimes with highly problematic ideologies. It was a chaotic, secretive, and ultimately destructive enterprise that leaves American citizens more vulnerable, not more secure. It's a stark reminder of what happens when unchecked power and private agendas infiltrate public service. We need to keep fighting for transparency, accountability, and a government that truly serves the people, not self-serving billionaires and their cronies.
Hey! How many miles are you running today?
No miles because we're at the beautiful White House, but why don't I give you a tour?
Let's do it.
In a jaw-dropping live moment on Fox News, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stepped into the spotlight to give a tour of the White House, only to be blindsided and nearly destroyed by a question that left her scrambling.
Guys, we have to stop for a second and look at this. I can't believe you get to wake up and be here every single day. Is this a dream come true for you?
As her response unraveled, viewers watched in disbelief. Elon Musk wasn't left out. The controversial billionaire who has it in for female political figure didn't hold his brakes. So what sparked this viral clash? And why did it leave Musk and millions online reeling with laughter? Let's see. What really happened?
My name is Caroline Leavitt. I am from New Hampshire, and I am the White House Press Secretary, and this is the beautiful White House.
Hold on just a second. Before we plunge headfirst into this political whirlpool, we need to address something crucial that our investigative team discovered after hours of painstaking research. What we're actually examining is something far more nuanced, complex, and arguably even more fascinating than what the clickbait suggests. So why has this particular story gained such tremendous traction? To understand that, we need to examine the key players in this political drama and the volatile environment in which they operate. To understand how we got here, we need to meet the actual protagonists of this. First, there's Kate Max, a TikTok influencer, a TikTok fitness influencer who had built her empire on something beautifully simple, the joy of running. Her content wasn't political, it was pure motivation, sweat, and the pursuit of personal bests. Her followers came from every corner of the political spectrum, united by their shared passion for pushing past their perceived limits and embracing the therapeutic power of movement.
Guys, we have to stop for a second and look at this. I can't believe you get to wake up and be here every single day. Is this a dream come true for you?
Her videos showcased ordinary people achieving extraordinary things. The overweight office worker completing their first 5K, the busy parent finding time between diaper changes and work meetings to lace up their running shoes, the recovering addict using the runner's high to replace destructive habits. Kate Max had created a digital sanctuary, a place where political divisions melted away in the face of shared human struggle and triumph. Then comes Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, whose journey to the White House podium reads like political fan fiction come to life. Born in 1997 in Atkinson, New Hampshire, she had transformed from a small-town girl working at her family's ice cream stand to the most powerful voice in American government communications. At just 27 years old, she shattered the age barrier for White House press secretaries, her appointment a testament to Trump's preference for unwavering loyalty over traditional credentials. Kate Max, riding high from a successful interview with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a conversation that perfectly aligned her fitness content with political accessibility, made a decision that would unknowingly trigger a political earthquake. She extended an interview invitation to Caroline Leavitt, seeing it as an opportunity to explore how someone in one of the world's most stressful jobs maintains their physical health and mental equilibrium.
Hey!
Hey! How many miles are you running today?
No miles because we're at the beautiful White House, but why don't I give you a tour?
Let's do it.
The interview itself was innocuous. Questions about running routines, stress management through exercise, the challenge of finding time for fitness amidst 14-hour workdays, handling the world's most scrutinized press corps. These were the same questions she had asked Governor Walz, questions that had resonated with her audience's desire to see the human side of political figures. But in the hypercharged atmosphere of contemporary American politics, identical questions can trigger dramatically different reactions. Levitt has appeared on Fox News multiple times, often defending administration policies or addressing controversies. One notable example includes her claim that President Trump deserved credit for quarterback Shedeur Sanders being drafted, as reported by The Independent. Such statements could invite criticism or ridicule, potentially setting the stage for a challenging interview. Then enters Hope Waltz, the daughter of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, whose response would transform this simple fitness interview into a viral sensation and a cautionary tale about political polarization. Having grown up in the unforgiving glare of political scrutiny, Hope had developed what some might call a sixth sense for political narratives and their implications. When she discovered that Kate Max had interviewed Caroline Levitt using the same platform, the same approach, and likely many of the same questions that had been used with her father, something fundamental shifted in her perception. Her reaction was swift, uncompromising, and absolutely public. She didn't simply disagree with the interview, she viewed it through the lens of moral absolutism. Hope Waltz labels the interview a good versus evil situation. Hope Waltz accuses Max of normalizing the Trump administration, suggesting that by humanizing Levitt through conversations about running and health routines, Max was unwittingly legitimizing policies and positions that Hope considered fundamentally harmful to democratic values and human rights. Hope Waltz argues that running is inherently political due to barriers like time, gear costs, and access to safe spaces. Waltz asserts that running is a political act and faults Max for not reflecting this in her discussion with Levitt. Meanwhile, Musk has become a prominent figure in political discourse. His role involves influencing government policy, and he frequently uses social media platforms like X to share his opinions, often with a humorous or critical tone. Caroline Levitt, the youngest White House press secretary in American history at just 27 years old. Her meteoric rise through Republican politics has been nothing short of remarkable. Born in August 1997 in Atkinson, New Hampshire, Levitt grew up in a family that ran a used truck dealership and an ice cream stand, humble beginnings for someone who would later become the official voice of the Trump administration. Her political journey began during her college years at St. Anselm College, where she stood out as a conservative voice on a predominantly liberal campus. She gained practical experience through internships, including one at Fox News, a connection that would prove valuable in her future career. After graduating in 2019, she quickly transitioned from intern to full-time staffer in the White House Office of Presidential Correspondence during Trump's first term. By June 2020, she had risen to associate director of that office and was soon appointed assistant White House press secretary under Kayleigh McEnany. This early White House experience was formative, giving her a front-row seat to the administration's media strategy and solidifying her loyalty to Trump. Following Trump's 2020 election loss, Levitt joined Representative Elise Stefanik, a prominent Trump ally, as communications director, but her ambition led her further. In July 2021, she announced her candidacy for the U.S. House of Representatives in New Hampshire's 1st congressional district. Although she won the Republican primary, she ultimately lost to Democratic incumbent Chris Pappas in the general election. Undeterred, Levitt joined Trump's super PAC, MAGA Inc., and later became the national press secretary for his 2024 presidential campaign. Her unwavering loyalty and communication skills caught Trump's attention, and after his 2024 victory, he named her White House press secretary, making history as the youngest person ever to hold this prestigious position. Trump praised her as smart, tough, and a highly effective communicator, highlighting her campaign performance and prior White House experience. Her appointment reflected his preference for loyal, energetic figures who could advance his agenda and counter mainstream media narratives. Since assuming this role, Levitt has established herself as combative and unapologetic, a communication style that mirrors Trump's own approach. She's made numerous appearances on Fox News, defending administration policies with characteristic intensity, particularly on hot-button issues like immigration enforcement and economic policies toward China. Now let's turn our attention to Elon Musk, the controversial billionaire entrepreneur who has found himself deeply embedded in the political machinery of the Trump administration. As head of the Department of Government Efficiency, cleverly acronymed as DOGE, Musk has carved out an unprecedented role for himself in American governance. Established via executive order on January 20th, 2025, DOGE emerged from discussions between Trump and Musk, with the tech titan taking on a pivotal role as a special government employee. This unusual arrangement has raised eyebrows across across the political spectrum, particularly given Musk's continued leadership of major private corporations including Tesla and SpaceX. Under Musk's direction, DOGE has pursued an ambitious agenda to eliminate inefficiencies, modernize technology, and cut what he deems wasteful federal programs. His team, composed of young software engineers and tech veterans from his companies, has accessed departments ranging from the Treasury to the Office of Personnel Management, implementing sweeping changes that have generated both praise for efficiency and criticism for overreach. Musk claims DOGE has saved taxpayers over $1 billion by canceling what he calls crazy DEI contracts tied to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. However, detailed evidence for these savings remains limited. His department has also facilitated significant layoffs and the dissolution of certain federal organizations, often without clear public justification. Beyond IT upgrades, Musk has influenced broader policy areas such as immigration crackdowns and reductions in foreign aid, prompting debates about DOGE's legal authority. His expansive approach has pushed beyond the department's original mandate, drawing both praise and alarm from various stakeholders. This unprecedented arrangement has not been without controversy. As CEO of Tesla and SpaceX companies with substantial government contracts, including SpaceX's reported $15.4 billion from NASA, Musk's dual role raises significant concerns about conflicts of interest. Critics argue his influence over federal spending could benefit his businesses, despite assurances that he recuses himself from related decisions. DOGE's operations have also been criticized for lack of transparency. The department's website initially offered little detail beyond promises of future receipts, and its reliance on X, formerly Twitter, for updates has been deemed insufficient by critics. Lawsuits from watchdog groups, including Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, have challenged DOGE's constitutionality, arguing it oversteps executive authority. In one notable case, a federal judge blocked DOGE from accessing Treasury records containing Social Security data, citing privacy risks. These challenges highlight the tension between Musk's bold reform agenda and the need for accountability in government operations. Now, with our key players introduced, let's examine how Fox News fits into this complex political ecosystem. As a major conservative-leaning outlet, Fox News has served as a frequent platform for administration officials like Leavitt and has covered Musk's activities extensively, particularly his work with DOGE and his relationship with President Trump. The network provides a sympathetic venue for administration figures to present their perspectives, though interviews are not without challenges. Leavitt has appeared on Fox News multiple times, often defending administration policies or addressing controversies. One notable example includes her claim that President Trump deserved credit for quarterback Shedeur Sanders being drafted, a statement that raised eyebrows across the political spectrum. Such appearances, while generally favorable to the administration, still contain moments where Leavitt faces difficult questions or situations that could be perceived as challenging. These moments, while not amounting to being destroyed, as the viral title suggests, do provide glimpses into the pressures and pitfalls of her high-profile role. The interplay between Musk, Leavitt, and Fox News occurs within a politically charged environment, marked by internal administration disputes and polarized media coverage. Understanding this context is essential to grasping what might have inspired the viral narrative about Musk laughing at Leavitt's expense on Fox. As we move into the next segment, we'll examine the most significant incident that likely contributed to this sensationalized story, a remarkable public feud between two high-ranking Trump administration officials that caught Leavitt in the crossfire and forced her into a delicate balancing act on national television. The feud that captivated America, Musk versus Navarro. Now, we turn our attention to what may be the most significant contributing factor to this narrative, an extraordinary public feud between two powerful figures in Trump's inner circle that forced White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt into an extremely difficult position on national television. The conflict that captivated Washington and beyond wasn't between Musk and Leavitt, but rather between Elon Musk and Peter Navarro, a senior trade advisor to President Trump. Their clash exposed deep ideological divisions within the administration and created a scenario where Leavitt found herself attempting to defuse a political bomb on live television, a challenging moment that could easily be mischaracterized as her being destroyed by difficult questioning. This remarkable feud stemmed from a fundamental disagreement over trade policy, specifically the Trump administration's approach to tariffs. Peter Navarro, a Harvard-educated economist with a PhD and longtime Trump loyalist, has been a staunch advocate for protectionist trade policies. He argues that tariffs are essential to protecting American manufacturing, reducing trade deficits, and reshoring production to bolster domestic industries in cities like Akron, Indianapolis, and Flint. Navarro's protectionist stance aligns with Trump's broader economic agenda, which he helped shape during both terms. He has been an architect of the administration's America First trade approach, positioning himself as a guardian of American industrial interests against what he sees as unfair foreign competition, particularly from China. In stark contrast, Elon Musk, despite his role in Trump's administration, has emerged as an unexpected critic of this protectionist approach. As CEO of Tesla, which relies on a global supply chain sourcing components from countries including Japan, China, and Taiwan, Musk has advocated for free trade and zero tariff zones, particularly between the United States and Europe. The technologist turned government efficiency czar argues that tariffs increase costs, hinder economic efficiency, and ultimately harm American competitiveness. This perspective puts him at odds with core elements of the Trump economic platform, creating an unusual situation where a high-ranking administration official publicly opposes a signature policy. The tension between these competing visions simmered beneath the surface until it dramatically erupted into public view during a pivotal moment that shocked political observers. The confrontation began when Peter Navarro appeared on CNBC for what should have been a routine interview about the administration's trade policies. Instead, he launched a thinly veiled attack on Musk, dismissing him as merely a car assembler rather than a true manufacturer. This seemingly calculated slight implied that Tesla's dependence on foreign parts undermined its status as an American company and, by extension, questioned Musk's credibility on trade issues. Navarro framed Musk's opposition to tariffs as self-serving, driven primarily by a desire for cheap foreign parts, and questioned his commitment to American manufacturing. The implication was clear. Navarro was positioning Musk as putting his business interests ahead of national economic priorities. For most administration officials, such a public critique from a colleague would warrant a measured private response through proper channels. But Elon Musk has never been one to follow conventional rules of engagement. In a move that sent shockwaves through Washington, Musk took to X, the social media platform he owns, to fire back with unprecedented ferocity. He didn't just defend his position, he launched a personal assault on Navarro's intelligence and credibility, calling him a moron and dumber than a sack of bricks for all the world to see. But Musk was just getting started. He defended Tesla's manufacturing credentials, claiming it is the most vertically integrated auto manufacturer in America with the highest percentage of U.S. content, directly refuting Navarro's portrayal. He also mocked Navarro's credibility by referencing his past use of a fictional trade expert named Ron Vara, an anagram of Navarro's own name, which Navarro had cited in his writings to bolster his arguments. The spat quickly escalated to extraordinary levels of personal animosity. Musk took his attacks to new heights, dubbing Navarro Peter Retardo and sarcastically apologizing to Bricks for comparing them to the Harvard-educated economist. In perhaps his most pointed jab, Musk suggested that Navarro's Harvard PhD in economics was a bad thing, not a good thing, directly attacking the credentials that underpinned Navarro's authority on trade matters. This public exchange between two high-ranking government officials was unprecedented in its personal nature and public visibility. The spectacle played out across traditional media and social platforms, drawing millions of views and thousands of comments as Americans watched in fascination at this rare glimpse into administration infighting. The timing of this feud could hardly have been worse for the administration, unfolding amid significant economic turbulence. Trump's tariffs were contributing to global market volatility, including a sharp drop in Tesla's stock price. Reports suggested Musk's personal fortune had declined by approximately $31 billion, adding a financial dimension to his opposition and raising questions about whether his policy positions were influenced by personal financial considerations. Navarro, for his part, attempted to downplay the conflict in subsequent appearances, including on Fox News, where he claimed everything is good with Elon, no problem, though he continued to suggest that Musk's stance was motivated primarily by business interests rather than economic principle. This transparent attempt to paper over the gaping rift fooled nobody and only intensified media interest in the story. The unprecedented nature of this public spat between two senior administration figures created a media firestorm. Major outlets, including the New York Times, CNN, and Fox News, extensively covered the feud, often framing it as evidence of deeper divisions within the administration. The Daily Beast highlighted the personal nature of Musk's insults, while Axios noted that the administration seemed surprisingly unperturbed by the conflict, viewing it as part of its smash-mouth political style. Social media, particularly X, buzzed with discussions, with users taking sides or expressing concern about the broader implications for governance. Business leaders and economic commentators weighed in, with figures like Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, a dean at the Yale School of Management, noting that Musk's position actually aligned with many American CEOs who viewed Trump's tariffs as economically damaging. On X, users like Richard Hanania criticized Musk's anti-intellectual tone while acknowledging that his arguments resonated with those skeptical of protectionism. Meanwhile, others like Joseph Pino _ emphasized Navarro's loyalty to Trump, including his imprisonment for defying a congressional subpoena as a reason to support him over Musk. As this extraordinary conflict consumed Washington's attention, all eyes turned to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. How would the administration's official voice navigate this unprecedented intra-government conflict? Her handling of this situation would prove to be one of the most challenging moments of her tenure, and possibly the source of the narrative that she was destroyed on Fox News. When pressed about the feud during a press briefing, Leavitt opted for a strategy that would soon make headlines of its own. Rather than attempting to deny or minimize the conflict, she offered a strikingly casual dismissal, saying simply, "Boys will be boys." This seemingly offhand remark, dismissing a serious policy disagreement with a phrase typically reserved for mischievous children, immediately raised eyebrows. But Leavitt wasn't finished. She proceeded to frame the public spectacle not as a sign of dysfunction, but rather as evidence of the administration's exceptional transparency. She elaborated that the administration was the most transparent in history and suggested that the public should appreciate the openness of such debates. She further highlighted President Trump's leadership style, noting, "It speaks to the president's willingness to hear from all sides, that he has people at the highest levels of this government who have very diverse opinions on very diverse issues." This remarkable spin attempt, transforming what critics viewed as chaotic infighting into a narrative of inclusivity and openness, reflected Leavitt's skill at message control, but also generated its own controversy. Her "boys will be boys" comment, in particular, drew criticism for trivializing a serious policy disagreement with gendered language that appeared to excuse inappropriate behavior from powerful men. Media outlets such as the Daily Mail, Mediaite, and HuffPost widely reported her remarks, with some describing her tone as eye-raising or noting that she mused rather than seriously addressed the conflict. On social platforms like X, users directly quoted her "boys will be boys" remark, amplifying its reach and sparking varied reactions ranging from amusement to outrage. Critics argued that her casual dismissal failed to address the substantive policy differences at play and reflected poorly on the administration's professionalism. Supporters, however, viewed her response as a clever way to sidestep a potentially damaging narrative, reframing internal conflict as healthy debate under Trump's big tent leadership. This high-pressure moment, facing difficult questions about an explosive internal conflict on national television, created precisely the type of challenging situation that could be misrepresented as Leavitt being destroyed in an interview. While she maintained her composure and executed the administration's preferred messaging strategy, her controversial response generated its own backlash that fueled perceptions of a difficult moment for the young press secretary. The Musk-Navarro feud extended far beyond personal animosity, reflecting significant policy and political challenges for the Trump administration. At its core, the conflict underscored a fundamental ideological split between protectionists like Navarro and free trade advocates like Musk, a divide that complicated the implementation of a unified trade agenda, especially as global markets reacted negatively to the administration's tariff policies. This public spat raised questions about the administration's ability to govern effectively. While some supporters embraced the transparency of open debate, others viewed the conflict as evidence of dysfunction, particularly given the White House's casual response through Leavitt. The economic context amplified the stakes considerably. As markets responded to trade uncertainty, Tesla's stock price and Musk's personal wealth experienced significant volatility. This financial dimension added another layer of complexity to the tariff debate and may have further fueled Musk's opposition to the administration's trade approach. As we wrap up this segment, it's worth noting how this extraordinary feud illustrates the unprecedented nature of the Trump administration's internal dynamics. The willingness of high-ranking officials to engage in public personal attacks and the press secretary's framing of such conflicts as normal and even positive represents a dramatic departure from traditional government operations. In our final segment, we'll explore how Elon Musk's reactions to Leavitt and other public figures, particularly women in politics, have created their own controversies. We'll also examine how this incident fits into broader patterns of administration communication and what it reveals about power dynamics in Trump's Washington. Power, perception, and social media. The real story emerges in the final segment of our investigation into the viral narrative. Elon Musk laughs as Caroline Leavitt gets destroyed on Fox Live. We've established that while this specific event didn't occur exactly as described, it draws from real tensions within the Trump administration, particularly the explosive feud between Elon Musk and Peter Navarro that forced Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt into a difficult position. Now we turn to perhaps the most intriguing question. Why did this particular narrative gain such tremendous traction? What does it reveal about media dynamics, public perception and the unique power structure within the Trump administration? And what role has Elon Musk's history of controversial interactions with political figures, particularly women, played in making this story believable to so many? To understand the viral appeal of this story, we must first recognize that it taps into established patterns of behavior from the key figures involved. Elon Musk, in particular, has a documented history of provocative interactions with political figures on social media, often using his platform to mock or criticize those who oppose his views or challenge his interests. While our investigation found no specific instance of Musk publicly laughing at Levitt's expense on Fox News, his general approach to public commentary made such a scenario plausible to many observers. Musk is known for his active engagement on social media, where he frequently comments on political events and figures with wit, sarcasm, and occasionally mockery. Now we return to the elephant in the room, or rather, the billionaire who isn't in the room. Although Elon Musk is completely absent from the video, it symbolizes how we've become conditioned to expect political drama to revolve around certain magnetic personalities. Musk has positioned himself as a central figure in American political discourse, straddling the line between government contractor and political provocateur, between technological innovator and cultural warrior. The title's invocation of Musk reveals our collective fascination with his every move, word, and reaction. We've reached a point where adding his name to any controversy guarantees engagement, where the promise of his laughter at political misfortune draws millions of clicks. This represents a broader phenomenon where individual personalities have become more compelling than the actual policies and systems they represent. We're not just watching political drama, we're witnessing the personalization of democracy itself, where the fate of nations seems to rest on the whims and tweets of singular figures. Instead of appearing in this video, Musk has been embroiled in his own controversies, including a public feud with Peter Navarro over trade policies. Caroline Levitt addressed this conflict on Fox News, saying, "Boys will be boys," and emphasizing transparency. The feud quickly intensified as Musk took to X to fire back, calling Navarro a moron and dumber than a sack of bricks. While the video promises to show Caroline Levitt being destroyed, the real destruction is far more subtle and insidious. What's being dismantled isn't a person's reputation in a single moment of televised humiliation, but the very infrastructure of civil discourse. The true casualty is our ability to engage with those who disagree with us, to find common ground in shared human experiences, to maintain relationships that transcend political tribalism. Kate Max attempted to create a bridge through the universal language of fitness and health. Hope Waltz's response suggests that in our current climate, such bridges are viewed as pathways for dangerous ideas to spread. The destruction isn't happening in a studio or on a news network. It's occurring in the fabric of our social connections, in our capacity to see political opponents as fellow human beings worthy of basic courtesy and curiosity. This slow-motion dismantling of civil society is far more devastating than any viral moment of political embarrassment. It represents the calcification of American discourse into opposing camps that cannot and will not engage with each other, even on the most basic human level. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this entire controversy is what it reveals about us as viewers and participants in digital culture. The fact that a completely fabricated title could draw millions of viewers hungry for political conflict exposes our own complicity in the degradation of public discourse. We click on promises of destruction and humiliation. We share content based on sensational headlines without investigating the actual substance, and we allow our political identities to colonize even the most seemingly apolitical spaces. The mirror effect works both ways. Just as Hope Waltz saw Kate Max's interview as reflecting dangerous normalization, the video itself reflects our own desires, biases, and the ease with which we can be manipulated. Every click on a false promise, every share of misleading content, every willingness to believe the worst about those we disagree with politically, these actions aggregate into the very polarization that makes genuine dialogue increasingly impossible. The Kate Max controversy suggests we're approaching a crossroads. One path leads to further fragmentation, where every platform becomes a fortress of ideological purity and genuine cross-political interaction becomes virtually impossible. The other requires developing new norms for digital engagement, ways to maintain accountability while preserving the possibility of connection, methods for challenging harmful ideas without demanding absolute ostracism. The challenge isn't trivial. Caroline Levitt has emerged as a steadfast defender of Musk and DOGE, consistently justifying their actions and countering criticism with claims of transparency and fiscal responsibility. She has consistently portrayed DOGE as a solution to government waste, claiming Musk's efforts prevent national bankruptcy. As we close this investigation into the truth behind Elon Musk laughs as Caroline Levitt gets destroyed on Fox Live, we're left with a sobering realization. The real destruction isn't captured in any viral video. It's happening in the slow erosion of our ability to coexist, communicate, and find common ground. The challenge before us is immense, but the alternative, a society fractured fractured beyond repair, where every interaction becomes a battlefield and every platform a weapon, is unthinkable. As we scroll past the next sensational headline, we must ask ourselves, are we consuming content that brings us closer together or further apart? In the end, the power to change the narrative rests not with the influencers or politicians, but with each of us, in our daily choices about how we engage with those who see the world differently than we do. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of the most deceptive yet revealing viral moments of our time. To stay connected on more recent updates concerning political matters, please click on the card showing on the screen.